Hello, everyone. This episode of the podcast was shot while I was back home for the holidays. I sat down with my dad, Randy, and we went over his career as an Avalanche consultant. In the podcast you're about to listen to, I phrased that question a bit funny right off the bat. I guess I was a bit nervous, but he's definitely my favorite guy to talk to, and I really enjoyed this conversation, so I hope you do too. All right, here we go. I was thinking I would ask you about like your career almost as like an Avalanche consultant, just because
okay.
I've got lots of guys, in the snow game that could be interested in it.
Yeah. Well, it was an awful lot different, I think, to get started.
Yeah.
When I got started.
Oh no, it's good. Sorry.
It's good.
When you got started.
Yeah.
It
was in the birth of a lot of programs. Like BC Highways program was just being born as I was kind of 24, 25, kind of just coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd been working as a professional ski patrolman. And I'd met a guy there, Dave Hamray, who'd come from Alta, Utah. He was snow safety director at Alta. He'd come up to Canada to work for a year, and he'd run a few Avalanche courses and told some good stories and stuff. So I kind of got inspired to learn about avalanches through that, and also from just a kind of a survival thing.
Yeah.
Stay alive. Some guys around Kamloops had died. Notably Rick Burfield, the guy there that just a bit older than I was, that I sort of idolized. And he died when I was a teenager in an avalanche at Apex and stuff. So learning about avalanches. But I was really at the ground level as far as professional level training from the Canadian Avalanche Association.
Yeah.
I think I was involved in the first level 2 course for professionals in the ski industry. They'd been doing training there more targeted towards a transportation industry in those days. That's how it got started.
Yeah.
For Rogers Pass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's sort of the impetus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the combination of that, being some of the first crew that were trained up, and then the birth of a lot of safety programs, the BC Highways program and Parks Canada programs were expanding, and the whole industry was really growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of rich research, and lots of changes and lots of things being discovered and stuff. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, if you were interested, there were jobs out there to be had. So it was pretty much easier to get started.
Because it was just all booming and sort of all beginning.
Yeah.
There kind of wasn't much beforehand.
Yeah. So people would come out of, often with not really any experience, a bit of training, and, working as a ski patrolman, maybe at an area with ski patrol areas. They're certainly there's some big programs, Whistler and, Kicking Horse and some of the Rocky Mountain programs and stuff. Those are big ski area programs, but ski areas are pretty defined compared to a lot of transportation programs or guiding, the guiding industry, where you're flying around a helicopter. All of a sudden, there's quite a few acres to keep an eye on. Yeah. So it's quite different. So a lot of times you'd end up with not very much experience, challenged by some really daunting avalanche safety programs.
Wow. Yeah, kind of getting thrown right in just because you're the most available guy kind of thing.
But for young guys, that's great,
Yeah.
There was no real industry standard best practice. Those were, a lot of times they were either brand new programs or programs that have been just observation programs for a couple of years, but now they wanted them to be operational programs.
Yeah.
And,
so did you stay with the association then for a while, or did you branch off and go highways right away, or?
Well, I was working in the ski industry as a pro patrolman.
Okay.
That's kind of how I got started.
Yeah.
And that fellow that I met in the ski industry, Dave Hamray, he'd actually gone to Alaska and had started a snow safety consulting business up there.
Okay.
And I was ski patrolling. A little bit of avalanche work, but not a lot. But training, I'd done my level 2 at that point, and I was interested in the business, and I bumped into Dave at an international snow science workshop.
Oh yeah.
Right. So they get hosted every couple of years, either down in the States or in Canada, and they're usually in the fall.
Yeah.
And he already had his programs active in Alaska when he came down for this conference. I think it was the end of October or something. Guys were already kind of setting up and getting ready to work. 1st of November.
Yeah,
you can be in it big time in Alaska for sure with avalanche problems. A guy that was working for him had gotten hurt and asked me if I wanted to come up, and I ended up, that was kind of my real start in the avalanche business.
So you went up to Alaska?
Went up to Alaska and worked with Dave on some really big, challenging programs in big mountains, and it was tremendous.
Wow.
Really exciting.
And was it like a heli operation, or was he?
No, he was in industries. It always has been, well, since he left the ski business, he left Alta, but he's been on the industrial side of Avalanche, selling Avalanche safety services, selling it to industry. Yeah. So he had a bunch of contracts up there. He had a contract with the Alaska State Railway, which he had kept I may still be doing it, I'm not sure. And I was there to work in a big gold mine project.
Okay.
I was there in the Talkeetna Range.
Yeah.
It was a bit of owned by an oil company.
Yeah.
That they were having issues with the mill, so it wasn't really in production.
Okay.
But they were working hard to get it into production. But still, it was a amazing program. I had my own snowcat to drive around with a gun on the back of it. Build a road with the snowcat on the other side of the valley. From the Hall Road, and then could shoot across at the avalanche paths that affected the Hall Road with an avalancher. Did a little bit of helicopter bombing, and
So for someone who's unfamiliar with like industrial application of snow safety, what would you say you kind of go in and look to cover? Like, is it just access roads typically? It's just maintaining?
It can be a complete range. It can be workers on the surface too.
Okay.
Right? It can be people on their feet, really exposed to hazard and stuff. So it can go anything from that to a lot of those industrial programs. You really play with the edge of the envelope, or at least you have a lot of risk tolerance, because it's a private road, radio controlled, and the guys are in haul trucks. Or if anybody's not in a haul truck, then the forecaster knows about it. And, he's either okay with it or not, but
it's not open to the public, people
and
all around
dancing
don't know
with the
about.
Avalanches all the time, shooting in amongst the trucks, and bringing stuff down on the road and plugging the road up, and then they're all backing up, and you're in there digging. I mean, it's it's just not like a public road type thing. But those are the kind of hardcore, real private industrial programs, and mainly in Alaska. That's what I did. I worked on that program, and we also had a contract in Adigan Pass of this really funky truck, 1-ton flatbed GMC 4x4 on dualies with a gun on the back of it, avalancher on the back of this. That was my main drive around Alaska truck.
Wow.
With an avalancher on the back. So we'd go to Adigan Pass. That's a highways project. In the deep north there, north of the Arctic Circle. And then the other one I went to was a hydroelectric construction project on Kodiak Island. But, that was really close. There was nobody in there but workers. Private project, no public at all.
Wow.
No looky-loos. Adigan Pass was a bit of a mix. You could find, not Adigan Pass. Hatcher Pass was a bit of a mix. You could have anybody up there. You'd think you had a private road, but then there'd be people sledding and ski touring and cross-country skiing and.
So you manage that too.
So
did you stay with that industrial stuff even after you left Alaska?
So I came back from Alaska. There was issues. I would love to have stayed up there, but I were constantly wrestling getting permits to get a Canadian to go up there and work. We managed to stretch the winter out of the application process, but it didn't look like it was going to have any history. So I came back and went to work for BC Highways, and they were just growing their program, big expansion going on. And I went to Duffy Lake. And the very, very first years that they kept the road open full time, myself and a guy by the name of Colin Zacharias.
Throughout the winter.
And we ran that program, and it was a big challenge. We sort of always wanted to keep the road open because we thought it would get really boring. It wasn't open, just to keep it challenging. It hadn't been kept open in the past. And kind of got lucky with the winter and managed to keep it open that winter. And then that was the end of it. People started using it.
Right, and it
to
had
go
to
from
stay
the
open.
interior to Whistler, and then there was a lot of pressure to. So I don't sort of feel like we had a little influence. I think that was always the plan. And that's why they were growing the program, was they saw it as a winter route to the interior to need as many of those as you can get. And,
because at least one of them was probably going to close.
So that was a fabulous program. Tons of ski touring and really, and it was a new program. They'd been in there doing observations, but they hadn't done any avalanche control and stuff. And I had gotten a lot of explosives handling experience working in Alaska, and some from the ski industry prior to that. I'd worked at Whistler and stuff. Learned to shoot an avalanche at Whistler.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Things. But so I was able to bring the those skills to the job, and when you can do that's how you can keep roads open, right? When you can aggressively kind of work the terrain, right? And work the problems and try and remove the unstable snow when there's an opportunity, like get on it when it's weak and try and get it to move, and lots of closures, but shorter closures, and so we were able to. Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of people doing handling explosives with BC highways in those days. It was guys in Kootenay Pass were and stuff, and a little bit of other stuff, some up north, but so I was able to bring that in. They were a little bit
they were a bit apprehensive about the explosives work.
There's lots of regulation and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
totally.
I was always
When you would have left there, would you have sort of written that in their plan to go forward? Is like, this is how you'd manage the slopes and these explosives?
No, that's always with those programs, especially new programs, your program development, you're building it, and a lot of it's trial and error. What works, and getting caught, maybe having some close calls or something, and then realizing now we got to do this differently. We had a camp up in Duffy Lake, and originally they accessed the camp with the snowcat because the logging road wasn't open in the wintertime, right? Totally. So we had a real dog of a snowcat, an old bombardier thing that was hard to drive, and we traded that in for some snowmobiles later. But it was fun. There was a camp, but eventually, like the camp, those kind of things are expensive to run and stuff. So you're constantly developing the program, and you're documenting all the procedures and what you've done in the past and trying to grow the program. And if all of a sudden the program, people get used to there being explosives and they keep the road open, so then now all of a sudden if you're going to hire somebody, they've got to have an explosive ticket, right? So now you change the.
Did Dave tell you about the noisy?
He did. I'll have to have a look at that.
I'm doing a podcast with Dad.
Right now?
Yeah.
As we speak? Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's no stress if you guys got to move around though. The mics are pretty close quarters, and I can cut whatever. Yeah.
Where are the mics?
On the chest, all black.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, no, I think that still is one of the best BC Highways programs and stuff. It's active enough. You do explosives work, and you got enough terrain there to make it really challenging. Got a lot of kilometers worth of road to keep your an eye on. You know? That makes programs a lot more challenging. Guys that have really confined programs, 25 kilometers, and that's all they got to deal with.
Yeah.
Kootenay Pass. Kootenay Pass is a challenging program, but it's pretty confined.
Yeah, right? It's a small part of the road.
It's a pretty nice little package there compared to somebody that, especially some of the northern programs.
And Duffy has them, like the Avalanche paths, like you said, not condensed. There's probably, I don't know how many, you might know how many are down the road, and they're spaced quite
a number
wide.
And a bunch of different aspects and different loading environments, and even different climatic zones. You swing quite quickly from the coastal range right through. In fact, there's not that many avalanche problems in the coastal snowpack. Just some right on the lake there. But then right away you come around the corner and you move into a real continental snowpack, lots of depth over. It's colder. And,
so the closer to Lillooet, the more difficult it tended to be.
It gets tricky. They don't generally, these days. If you look at the vegetation, the endocrinological stuff, there's. certainly evidence of some big avalanches coming out of some of those desert paths, but you don't seem to see them. Yeah.
No,
but
it's not that common anymore.
It's still, we definitely dealt with some there. I can't remember I think the path was the 19 kilometer or something. There was one real close to Duffy Lake. He used to always catch us and would produce really good across the road. Yeah.
Yeah. And almost into the lake at times too.
Well, no, that's that real canyon section, real close to Duffy Lake there. So, but you don't want to get bumped off the road in there.
No.
Yeah. But that was good. And then I was really lucky. I left. They started to build the Coquihalla Highway.
Oh yeah.
And they were looking for guys who were interested in working on that program. So I left Duffy Lake to go work in the Coquihalla for the construction of that highway. And then I left that program once the highway was open, and worked as I don't know, they call them senior technicians or headquarters technician. It was much different in those days. There was a couple of guys that worked out of the Victoria office. Yeah. Their office was in Victoria, but really their responsibilities were all over the province. So there was no regional avalanche safety program. So now there's what they call a regional program. They have resident programs and regional programs. Resident programs are Kootenay Pass, small, chunk. Some of them are bigger, Revelstoke.
Yeah.
The regional guys have a bunch of areas. They do lots more traveling, that kind of thing. So there was none of that before. No regional. The resident guys were there, but no regional programs. And it was handled by a couple of guys that we used to just run around the province trying to deal with the worst problem.
You're like the man on call, hey?
Like, the man on call, exactly. The jet set avalanche technician. I was based in Vancouver, and you'd go to the airport and get on a jet plane and go to wherever the problem was, Fort St. John, Prince George, Cranbrook sometimes, that kind of thing. Yeah. And get in a helicopter at the airport and go throw some bombs and go back to Vancouver. Yeah.
See where they need to go. Holy man.
Yeah. So I did that for a few years, and then decided to go off on my own as a consultant.
Yeah. Is there something you can look back on that sort of inspired you to make the move to running your own consulting business versus working for the government?
I don't know. It's interesting because I was really lucky. I mean, I wasn't a plan. Like, I didn't have any kind of career plan. I just followed my nose and skiing lots, really. Yeah. But God, I was given so much opportunity, but sometimes that opportunity would lead to the realization that maybe you didn't kind of fit the mold too much. So my last year with government, the manager of snow avalanche programs, there's kind of one guy that sort of leads the show there, and then the senior technicians work under him and stuff. Yeah. And really, he's, this guy was Jeff Freer, and he's brilliant because he had a field background, but really you're an administrator. You're when the highways, there's a bunch of highways closed around the province and stuff, there's a lot of heat, a lot of political heat, and a lot of questions to be answered by the kind of executive level people. Yeah. And their information guy is that guy, right? So you have to be able to go into those meetings and I never looked like those guys. No. And maybe I'm a little bit rough right now. It is Christmas, but no, really. I mean, you got a suntan, and your hair is maybe a bit longer than it should be, and you're in these meetings, and you don't speak the language either. And I, Peter Principle, promoted to the point of incompetence. So for my last year, I took that job on. That guy that was running the program, he wanted to move on, to move up in government and do some other stuff, and he eventually did some pretty remarkable projects. So it was a great thing for him. And I fumbled through it for sure for that winter. It was a big winter. Yeah. There's lots of funny stories about that. I agreed to come back and do that, but Mom and I had agreed to go to Costa Rica for February. She was in her residency program in Newfoundland. Yeah. She only got 1 month off, and she'd been working really hard. So, that's just tempting the gods. If the guy that's supposed to be running the show is in Costa Rica in February, you know what's going to happen. And there was a massive avalanche closures. There was roads closed all over the place. And anyways, I don't know. The whole thing was a little bit, it made it apparent to me that I didn't really wasn't really cut out, I don't think, for that job, right? And it was hard to go backwards at that point. I probably wouldn't have got that job if I'd applied for it. I was just in an acting position, so it was going to be posted.
Yeah.
And I probably would have gone back to working as a senior tech under, I think Jack Bonetto eventually got the job, but I don't think, I just kind of became apparent to me that I would, and I wanted to do some different stuff.
Yeah.
I was a little bit frustrated by the,
how the workings of it all.
Yeah. It was a good opportunity too. There was other stuff happening. It was good. I was the right age, I think, to be doing that. You're quite adventurous when you're, and kind of in the middle of your career. And there was privatization was coming along with highways, so that opened up some
more
bit of bread and butter work that you could do to put you in position to do interesting projects that came up.
So it's almost kind of just to provide the lifestyle that you were looking for, but stay in the industry, was to move out on your own, so you could take the time off when you wanted and work on the projects you wanted, kind of a bit more freedom kind of with it.
And it was a lifestyle thing too. I wanted to live in the mountains. I enjoy the Kootenays. I mean, we live in Rossland. We went to Rossland shortly after that, and in those days, now the guy that has that job, he lives in Nelson, so they changed things because you couldn't get good people to stay.
Yeah, you couldn't get the snow guys.
Right? Guys like me were going away because the job meant you lived in Victoria.
Yeah, and that doesn't fly for somewhere else.
Because you had to be available to those guys. You had an office. I mean, it was. And even that, I did the job for 2 years there. I had my point of assembly was Vancouver, but you're still going to Victoria all the time.
Yeah.
I was just kind of pushing my passion for aviation at that time, so I had taken advantage of that, and I had a little plane that I would fly back and forth from Vancouver to Victoria with. And that helped a bit, but man, you spend a lot of hours on the ferry, right? It's a cultural thing. There's hundreds of people that live in Vancouver and work on the island.
Yeah.
They go there Monday morning and they come back Friday afternoon.
Ferry living.
Yeah. I didn't, so it was a lifestyle thing, right? I was like going to work on the bus with an umbrella, this was not,
So what challenges do you think kind of arose when you decided to go out on your own? I would assume, you gain some of the freedoms, but then you also take on a lot more of the bookkeeping and the arrangements and kind of having to start all that jazz.
People have no idea. Right? That's why that you get slaughtered by new guys coming into the business often that have got some skills and stuff, and all of a sudden, boom, they're latest, greatest Avalanche consultant, and they're $100 or $500 a day less than you are. And but that's because they don't understand the cost of doing business, the cost of running through 2 or 3 pickup trucks and 2 or 3 computers, and the wear and tear of the traveling on everything. Right? So the cost of doing business and the hours, the unpaid hours of work. I really like it. I wouldn't give up. Have not done it at all. It was absolutely the right decision for me. I love the freedom, and I would work really hard when I'd work, but I've always had lots of time off. I can't think of a year, ever, because even when I worked for highways, I had lots of time off because we used to have this earned time off thing, but I've always had, 3 or 4 months a year to off. Right.
To keep up the lifestyle you want.
Not 2 weeks a year.
Totally.
Sort of 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there, and manage to scratch out a living in the other, 6 to 8 months kind of thing, depending on.
And
how
was
much
it
you work?
Yeah.
I mean, there's been exceptions. You've witnessed that in some of my latter projects where I worked.
Totally.
12 hours a day, 7 days a week, forever. Till the project was done.
Definitely.
At least that's where your brain's going. You're not actually working, but your brain never.
Oh, it's always on it when they're the big projects like that. Yeah. And those projects kind of came about just from time in the game, hey? A lot of experience and. Exactly. So again, just really lucky. I wish I could take credit for some kind of game plan or some kind of thing. More just stumbling into different projects and meeting different people, and So that stuff was just it was pretty crazy. But throughout a lot of it was
Jeff Freer, the poor guy's gets slaughtered in this thing, but has to take responsibility for a lot of crazy projects. But I did a bunch of crazy stuff for that guy. You know, when, he was head of BC Highways Snow Avalanche safety programs when we were doing the Coquihalla, and so I took on as the project lead the construction of a couple avalanche control ropeways there. Okay. And nobody in government was building that kind of stuff. It was 2 years of hanging out of a helicopter every day, riding a helicopter every morning to go to work kind of thing. And a lot of really hardcore mountain flying and lots of hardcore mountaineering and rope work to protect workers and to get to do survey work and stuff like that. And it was different in those days too. We did what we tried to keep it as safe as we could, but the whole kind of WorkSafe had no concept of that type of work in those days.
Yeah.
So it was just, oops, there goes the mic. Just using guiding and climbing. I was a climber. I wasn't a guide, but I was a rock climber and a mountaineer. And so just using guiding techniques that we would use climbing to get the job done. So that was one project. And then I went back. He had another goofy one with a road that was blockaded. He had moved away from BC Highways or from Snow Avalanche programs and gone in doing other work for the government, and they had a road that was blockaded by a native band.
Oh yeah.
And they couldn't get the negotiations going. It was just deadlocked.
Yeah.
And it was quite threatening. They were all masked up and stuff at the roadblock and stuff. I went through it a couple of times. It's quite an intimidating thing.
Whoa.
But the idea was to go around them, and they needed a fast road and somebody that's got thick skin and that would go wild and get it done. Get them around. And I'd done a bunch of road location work just in other work, other actually in forestry engineering work. Yeah. So he knows those, and so he called me up and said, "Hey, can you come and do this?" And so another kind of bizarro thing, right? Spur of the moment. But that was 2 projects, and then I went to work. He called me into the Olympics as well, where they'd had an incident and some people running away from some avalanches. So it quickly got some avalanche safety programs for a couple of the venues at the Olympics. And so I'd done a bunch of programs for him. So when that Port Mann Bridge stuff comes up, he put a number of people in the room together. Those types of contacts, that's what he has. He knows lots of, I know a guy, he knows lots of guys. And he put them all in a room.
So some of the ones that you think of they're kind of the like fix it, like how can we, they're unique jobs that you kind of got on from like multitudes of experiences, different areas, and you kind of knew you as the guy that if it all went to shit they could kind of pull you in and hopefully figure something out.
I guess. I mean, I always thought they were wonderful work. I mean, it's just good because it's creative stuff and there's no handbook, in most cases work hasn't been done before, although there's in a lot of cases like Port Mann, in my mind, the big picture stuff was pretty simple. It was an avalanche safety program. People still argue that there isn't that close a parallel, but in my mind, it's an environmental hazard that's affecting traffic movement that's driven by weather forecasts and human factors, decision making to make it all work. It's an avalanche safety program.
Right, yeah.
It just happens to be, snow shedding off cables on a bridge. But, So, even though it had never been done before, in my mind, conceptually managing it, they were, I was just went, no, you guys can't do it. You got to do it this way. But I mean, we're still in those arguments in the sense that the strength of avalanche safety programs are generally tied to the quality of the observations that you have, that you're able to get, right? Whether that's how skilled are your observers or how much capacity do you have to get observations and stuff like that. You're getting lots of good information. You can make good decisions. But like on Port Mann, that was always my thing. And no, man, you got to be out there slogging around on the bridge, and they just don't want to do that.
No, it's not.
It's gross. It's shitty. It's cold. It's wet. Your cell phone quits working in about half an hour. You take a piss, you got to walk off the bridge, which is like a kilometer hike.
Totally.
Started doing observations off a bicycle, and that helped a lot. But
to get the more ground in.
But that's how I know how to do it. And they're still trying to do it through sensors and cameras and stuff. They don't want to be out there. They don't want to be out there making observations. But you know, in my mind, though, it's an avalanche safety program, and it will fail if they don't stay on top of the observation part of it. So it'll probably fail. So.
Yeah. Well, smash. Yeah, I mean, the whole beginning.
It's inevitable. It's hidden factors.
Yeah. Well, the beginning of that project was that, you know, they had that snow and ice fall and damaged a bunch of cars, and it kind of put up that big, you know, we got to get this fixed kind of thing. And yeah, it'd probably fix it. And then, you know, you lose, once it's fixed, they kind of probably lose the almost urgency of it until you smash a couple more cars, and then it comes back up, and you know, they change the
I mean, that's the challenge of the guys that are running the program right now is to manage that. Right?
Yeah.
That's the professional aspect of the job, is to make sure that you're a good communicator and that you don't let up. You know, that's why you have to have a bit of thick skin to be successful in the game.
Yeah.
Because you can't let up. You gotta continually convince people to be alert and ready to respond, right? So that's the challenge, and you're right, because it's that involves quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot of spending associated, especially with that. That program's a very expensive program to run, and just to be alert, just to be ready, you have to spend quite a bit of money. And then if it doesn't snow, you send everybody home. Everybody stands down, right? So it's like the avalanche safety bulletins you see, you know, the low, moderate, considerable, that kind of stuff is a similar approach to being prepared for a snow event on the bridge. And, you know, to take them into the first couple of levels, they have to spend some money, and then they might stand down and send them home. They often would, actually. Yeah.
So does that become difficult as you're not only managing, you know, the risks there, but you're managing budget? So
exactly, that's the motivation. It's been, right now it's real tight in government. I don't know how. I'm not party to how things are going this year. Whether they're taking some chances or not. But, but still, there's a large fraternity. It's your generation more that are kind of running the show, or just maybe a bit older than you and stuff. But they don't get that observation stuff going out on the bridge and getting cold and wet and ugly. You know, it's more about, you should be able to do it with technology. They want to do it. They want to remove the human participation from the decision-making component of the program and do it with cameras and sensors and stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe they can. I don't know how to do it that way. It's not how I was trained to do it. That's not how we do the job.
Yeah.
And we've constantly tried to introduce sensing into the avalanche game and stuff like that, and it generally introduces a lot more cost and quite a bit more work, and sometimes a better quality product. No, often, certainly the telemetry weather sensing we have is a huge asset to being able to, you know, forecast avalanches and stuff. But at some level, it's you got to be out there looking, man.
Do you think it's just too nuanced at times? Like, there's just so many variables that you got to be able to bring in, that if you're looking at it through a camera, it's really hard to see those things? Or
it's I mean, the camera technology and stuff, it's amazing, but it's still in the middle of a big storm at night.
It's hard,
you don't see very much.
So getting out there,
and it's different all the time too. I mean, it's not just what the observer is seeing at that moment on the bridge, but it's that observer has been going out on the bridge every time it's produced a snow event, and is building understanding of what happens with the accumulations, and you know, because it's amazing. It's quite a science. I don't think there's really many people have done that. You know, I may have done more than anyone has. So actually going out and walking around bridges and watching snow accumulate on the cables and then glide and then come off, and it goes through a couple of states, you know, whether it's, you know, wet, slushy snow, and if it is and it refreezes, well, it's not going to go slushy again. It's going to come off as clear ice chunks and stuff. So that whole changes your hazard aspect. Like, there's snow on the cables, but what is it? You know, you got to know the whole history of as it started to accumulate and then what happened to it. And a lot of times you're wishing it would shed. If it would just shed and get it over with, and it won't, and you know the cold air is coming, and then it's going to refreeze up there. And that's why it's the same thing as explosives work in avalanche safety programs. Unless you can clean the cables, it's just it's it's a really difficult.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be hated by somebody. If you're trying to be that forecaster that's opening and closing the bridges on observations alone, you have no capacity to clean the cables. In a big winter, and you're going to still damage some vehicles.
Yeah, you're not going to be very successful.
You're never going to be on it all the time.
So does that thought process though, that comes from being in the mountains for avalanche safety, the like building the snowpack in your mind, always be looking at things like that. That's probably not something that you really see on those more like I don't think that thought process is going through the minds of a lot of people that were maybe managing more industrial things like that. But
no, you're absolutely correct. And that's why for example, the Port Mann Bridge programs are a hard thing to staff, because where do you hire guys that I'm telling them they need? I'm saying, no, you need guys that can read a weather forecast, and guys that are good at recording things, and guys that are good at being outside in shitty weather and stuff. Where do those guys come from? Well, they come from the avalanche business, right? That's where they get that training. That's where all that training is. And so there's a couple of problems there. Most of the avalanche guys don't want to go and live in Vancouver and work on a bridge, right? Going to work with the umbrella on the bus, problem. But some do. And certainly I think the guy that's got the job now, I think he's pretty happy he's got the job, He's looking at it more as a lifestyle stuff, and I think he likes it. It's a challenge. It's new. He's the only cable stay snow and ice forecaster in the world.
Well,
guy with that official job. There's only one in the world.
Well, because because that system's unique to the bridge, hey?
Yeah, at least with a cleaning program. I don't know. There's some guys on some other bridges that are like building database or sensor based things like dashboard. Turn some lights on. Dashboard. Just a program that makes it easy to look at weather forecasts and easy to look at all your sensors and everything.
Can you explain that collar drop system though of the cleaning on the bridge, because that's definitely unique to that bridge?
Well, it's pretty simple in a lot of sense. That we use a piece of marine chain that's just wrapped around the cable ductwork. The cables there aren't, the actual load-bearing cables aren't what you see and aren't what's exposed. What's exposed is a duct covering, or sort of a large plastic tube that covers the cable to keep the weather away from the cables. So that's what we're trying to clean off. And we wrap a hunk of big link chain around it. It's hooked together with a engineered quick link, and we just drop them. We just let them go. We just and gravity.
It's like a ring down your finger, but it goes the whole way down.
It's a bit big, right? It's a bit saggy on the cable there.
It's not a tight fit.
And that allows it to run.
And
as long as there's not too much snow on the cable, so that they can get started. Once they get started, they have a lot of, especially on the steep cables, they have they work really well. Like they clear the snow off of the duct quite effectively. On the lower angle cables, if they get too much snow on them, of course you let them go and they don't start sliding down the cable, and then you're kind of stuck. You gotta fix that.
So. Well, and that comes in the budget thing. You don't want to go too early because it costs too much if you throw a bunch.
Exactly. Or
go too
run
late.
Out of bullets, right? You got 30 of them. There's a trigger at the top of the cable that's got 30 of these collars hooked into it, and you can talk to the trigger with a computer and let them go one at a time.
Wow.
So, but there's lots of pieces, man. It's that's the whole thing about that program. I mean, there's lots of what we call rack systems, remote avalanche control systems and stuff like that are kind of doing that, talking to an exploder up in the mountains from your pickup truck on a radio, and getting gas explosions or high-speed electric explosives detonations and stuff. But with this thing, there's 288 cables, so there's 288 of those trigger devices. And there's 30 collars on each one. So there's 8,640 bullets in a complete load, a lot of pieces, right?
Yeah.
And then the computer program is pretty complex. We drop quite a bit more frequently on the lower angled cables to keep them cleaned off so that you don't run into problems with collars getting stuck. But on the steeper cables, you can wait for quite a bit more accumulation and clean them off when you have to, before they're going to shed or freeze. But you can wait until it gets to be quite deep. So you play around with it. And then there's power requirements on the bridge and stuff. We can't run all the triggers. Each one requires some power and stuff like that. So we can only run 4 at a time. So the software development to run that machinery is pretty complex, pretty specialized, specifically written software to work with that hardware, to work with those triggers and stuff. And it's a sawmill basically. A couple of great big PLCs in there talking to these smart motors in these triggers that are just pulling a jack screw back, and
letting them
really
work.
Fun stuff to put that all together. It was just really a remarkable learning experience.
So as far as last thoughts, you look back on it all fondly, like it was all
absolutely. You never get an opportunity to work in a program like that again, I mean, there's some stuff that bugs me a little bit. I want it to be run like a professional Avalanche program. And if you look at professional Avalanche workers in a big program, guys that have got some miles under their belts, guys that are tuned up and stuff, it's just cool. Right? Nobody's getting excited, I mean, they're doing exciting things. They're crawling in and out of helicopters and throwing explosives around, doing this, that, and the other thing. And they've got a lot of pressure often. Maybe it's a Trans-Canada highway that's closed or whatever. But it's really run, they're used to doing that. And the same with the road maintenance workers. They're used to the road being closed. And they're used to the guys working with the explosives and stuff. And it's a nice thing to watch, It doesn't always go hot knife through butter, Most days it doesn't. Most days some little thing doesn't work. But for the most part, they're really professional at what they do. And that's what I would like to see on the Port Mann Bridge. But it's a bit of helter-skelter out there. When it hits the fan, they don't get it quite yet. I kind of walk around with a big smile. I go, this is what it's supposed to look like. And they're all,
freaking out,
This is insane. I'm going, oh man, it's snowing in Vancouver. This is fantastic.
This
is why we're here, So I would like to, there's some stuff that bothers me about the way the operations have gone, but ultimately, no, it's just an outrageously fantastic experience. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for letting me in on it.
Yeah, you're welcome. There's lots of stories. Just a million stories in the middle.
Oh, I know. We could go for hours. No, I just want to get the overview in case anyone's kind of interested in that whole kind of job, because there's a multitude of depth on the whole. We could go into a lot, but but just the kind of overall how it went. That's just so cool to hear. Sounds like fun for sure.
It was good.
Cool. Sweet. Thank you, Dad.
Okay.
Appreciate
you're welcome.
it.